In this lesson, I'm going to introduce you to the forms of the aorist participles. Now, just like with the future, there's going to be a separate form for the present, the middle, and the passive. Remember, the passive aorist is formed off the sixth principal part. The other catch here is that there's going to be different forms for the strong aorist versus the weak aorist. Let's start with the strong aorist because in general, if you already know your present and future participles, the strong aorists are going to be quite easy. So, to review, present active participle of amy, on, usa, on. Now we're going to take these and we're going to add them to the aorist stem to form the strong aorist active participle. Remember, the strong aorist of lambano is el labon, and to get the stem, we're going to knock off the ending, and we're going to knock off the epsilon augment. Remember, the augment only exists in the indicative, so not the participle. So our stem here is lab, and then we're going to add our forms of the participle of amy. The only difference between the present and the strong aorist is that the accent is not recessive. It's going to actually go on the theme vowel. So labon, labontos, labonti, labonta. Remember, this is a first, third declension adjective. So the third declension for the masculine and the neuter. And for the feminine, labusa, labuses, labuse, labusam. And in the plural, it's exactly what you'd expect, just like you've already done for the present, with the exception of that shifted accent. So the strong aorist active participle has, in essence, the same endings as the present active participle. And the strong aorist middle participle is the same way. We're again going to take our stem, lab, and just like we did with the other middle participles, we're going to add omicron, men, and our endings. It's a first and second declension adjective, so labomenos, labomenu, labomeno, labomenon. In the feminine, labomene, labomenes, labomene, labomene, and the neuter is exactly what you'd expect. So the strong aorist participle is very closely allied, or in terms of endings, almost identical to the present participles. Now let's take a look at the weak aorist. These are going to have different endings. So from luo, remember the stem for luo, the aorist, the third principal part is elusa. And we're going to find the stem the same way. We're going to knock off the epsilon augment, and we're going to knock off the alpha. And to this stem, we're going to add our endings. We're going to use a recessive accent, and our endings are going to be as, asa, on. And again, it's a first, third declension adjective. So the masculines and the neuters are third declensions. The stem is going to be ant. So lusas, lusantos, lusanti, lusanta, lusantes, lusanton, lusasi. Notice what's happening here. We have lus, ant, sin. We get compensatory lengthening, and it becomes lusasin and lusantas. In the feminine, lusasa, lusases, lusase, lusason, lusasai, lusason, lusasais, and lusasas. Perfectly normal first declension, just like thalassa. And in the neuter, just like the masculine, the only difference is going to be in our nominative and accusative singular, lusan, which should be a circumflex over the upsilon, and lusanta, because remember, neuter plurals, nominative and accusative, always end in alpha. Now, I want to show you a little trick here in terms of these endings. You should, by this point, already have pas, pasa, pan memorized, right? Well, pas, pasa, pan has the exact same endings as the weak aorist participles. So, think of the weak aorist participles as pas, pasa, pan, but instead of a pi, you get the aorist stem. Now on to the middle, the weak aorist middle participles. Here, the only difference, we're going to take our weak aorist stem loose, and instead of our omicron that we've been using for all the other middle participles, we're going to use the alpha as our theme vowel. And then we're going to add our men and our endings. Lusamenos. Lusamenu, lusameno, lusamenon. In the feminine, lusamene, lusamenes, lusamene, lusamenein. And the neuter, as you'd expect. So the weak aorist middle participle is very similar to all of the other middle participles. Remember I said that all middle participles will have a men plus the ending in there? The only difference here is you have an alpha theme vowel instead of the omicron theme vowel. Now let's move on to the aorist passives. An aorist passive, remember, it doesn't matter if it's a weak or a strong verb. They're going to have the same passive form. That is, it's formed from the sixth principal part. So remember, the sixth principal part of luo is aleuthein. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to knock off our epsilon, and we're going to knock off the eta, and we're going to use the ending. So our stem is luth. We're going to use ace, asa, n, and again, it's going to be a first third. So the masculine is a third declension, and its stem goes from luthase to luthentos. So our stem is actually ent with our regular third declension ending. So luthase, luthentos, luthenti, luthenta, luthentes, luthenton, luthesi. What's happening here is luthent, seen. We get compensatory lengthening, so it becomes luthesin. And luthentas. In the feminine, luthesa, lutheses, luthese, luthesan. Just like thalassa. Luthesai, lutheson, luthesais, luthesas. So our feminine is a first declension adjective. And then the neuter is just like the masculine. The difference is going to be we see a slightly different nominative and accusative. So luthen, luthentos, luthenti, luthen, luthenta, luthenton, luthesin, just like we had with the masculine, and luthenta. So the thing to keep in mind is those strong aorists are identical in form, except for the accent, to the present participles. The weak aorist, we get a whole new set of endings, except that they look just like pas, pasapan. And in the middle, we have alpha theme vowel instead of omicron theme vowel, right? Omenos instead of omenos. And then in the aorist passive, we have new sets of endings. But I think if you remember the nominative, ace, asa, n, and remember there's a tau in the masculine and neuter stem, you should be okay.